Okay, hello everyone and welcome back to World of Tanks Blitz, and today we're going to be here doing a garage review of the Annihilator, the latest Halloween tank that's come around, and as many of you will probably know from playing in the Halloween event, it's a pretty popular tank, and for good reason. In its current form it is a little bit OP, I think is fair to say. As to whether or not it will stay OP as the meta changes and people start to learn about the tank, they learn how to counter it and they learn how it plays, whether or not it will remain OP or whether it will go in the same way as the Gravedigger and Helsing, for example, where they sort of lose their OP status. But for now, at least, yeah, it's really tearing up tier 7 and to some extent tier 8 games as well. But yeah, I've finally got it here. Took a little bit to grind out the Pyroleum to get it, but here we go, we finally have it. So, it is a pretty good tank, 1500 HP, which at tier 7 is not too uncommon. Something like the Tiger has also got 1500 HP, so has the Tiger P. The Gravedigger has got 1550. The Tankenstein has got 1600, which was a nice buff when it got that. 1500 for the VK, I think something like the IS-2, and that has got, yeah, 1400 or 1450 HP. Predator has got 1643, minus that you got about 1550ish, and then 1400 for the Lycan. So yeah, it's sort of in the mid range in terms of HP. It's not got the most, but then again, it's not got the least, which is always very nice. Yeah, it's got the same amount of HP as a Tiger, which, you know, that's reasonable HP. The armour, however, 200 frontal turret, 80 side, 60 rear, 115 frontal hull, 80 side, 40 rear. The armour is very strong, especially frontally, and especially with regards to the turret. The turret is pretty big. It's also an oscillating turret, nicked from an American vehicle, as you can see from the American star on the side of the turret. Yeah, turret front, very few things are getting through the front of this tank at tier 7, and even to an extent tier 8. Without using premium. It is a very strong frontal turret. There's very few weak spots on the front, except for, you know, the little commander's cupola. But otherwise, yeah, very few things get through the front of the turret. 115 at the front of the hull is this part here, and it is sloped at a decent angle. So you've got probably about 150 effective armour, which is, again, not too bad. Some things will struggle to get through it, however, the hull definitely is the weak spot, especially because the lower glacis. The lower glacis of this tank is the big frontal hull weak spot. If you're ever coming up against an Annihilator and you need to be able to kill it, lower glacis of the Annihilator is always going to be the weak spot. If he thinks he's safe and he's showing you his hull, just go for the lower glacis. Side and rears, of course, are, yeah, they're pretty terrible. I mean, 80 side is not too bad. For example, the Tiger 1 has got, or used to have, 100 side, 82 side armor, and in fact it still does. And it's still a pretty good side scraping tank. The same could be said with the Annihilator as well. You can try and side scrape, but then again, it's not the best idea. And the lower glacis and the rear is just generally pretty terrible. But frontally, at least, and especially with regards to the hull, if you're face hugging someone, they are toast, near enough, honestly. Yeah, just, they are toast. I didn't even set up these things. What am I doing? Let me do that, and then do that. There we go. I haven't mixed around with my consumables either, I just completely forgot about them. Yeah, so, frontally, this thing, yeah, very strong. As for mobility, not too bad. 26 average speed, 12.4 power to weight ratio, 47 degrees per second turret traverse, 36, nearly 37 degrees per second hull traverse, with a 702 horsepower engine. Power to weight itself is not that great. For example, the Predator Ultramarine has got 12.8 power to weight, it's got a worse top speed, and it's also got a worse turret traverse. And I think also worse hull traverse. comparison to something like the Gravedigger, just comparing it to all of the Halloween tanks, that's got a 14 power to weight ratio with a 27 average speed and 1,000 horsepower engine. I never realised this furnace was that powerful. Jeez. Okay. But it does have a far worse turret and hold reverse. Something like a VK, what else has the VK got? 10.8 power to weight, 22 average speed, something like an IS-2 Pravda. IS-2 Pravda has got 16.6, 30 average speed. Yeah, so not the worst. The turret reverse itself is definitely one of the better parts of the mobility. Look at that, 47 degrees per second turret reverse and a 36, nearly 37 degrees hold reverse. Honestly, it's got very, very good mobility. Is it worse? Is it better than the Tiger though? Because the Tiger is the definition of a heavium, a heavy medium, or a medium heavy. 30 degrees per second turret reverse, 48 degrees per second hold reverse. It's not quite as good as the Tiger. In regards of turret reverse, yeah, it's way better than the Tiger. However, hold reverse, power to weight, and average speed, the Tiger's taking it. So, whilst it's not quite as good as the Tiger, it's still very, very good mobility for a heavy tank. It's surprising just how fast this thing can move and can get around the place. What is it? A gas guzzler. Well, there you go. Knuckle buster suspension, anvil turret, aka an American oscillating one, and then the Cerberus Gun, which is what we'll move on to now. So yeah, Cerberus Gun, it's a tier 8 autoloader. It's a funny autoloader though, because it fires off all 3 shots at once. The same as a Helsing does its double shot, this thing does a triple shot, so it goes bang, 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 whereas the Helsing fires them both at the same time, twin barrel shotgun sort of style thing. This just does it 3 in a row instead of all 3 at the same shots. So it's not quite a shotgun, but it is a rapid fire burst sort of type thing. 3.9 second aim time, which is very good. 0.31 accuracy, which also is amazingly good. 2700 DPM, bearing in mind I am using provisions on this thing. If I was to take off the provisions such as tinned food and field rations, you would be looking at slightly worse stats. In fact, let me do that. Let me just do that just for the fair comparison here. So, yeah, still 14.06 magazine second reload time, which is, yeah, not too bad at all. 2500 DPM, which, yeah, also not too bad at all. 0.33 accuracy, which is very accurate. 4.1 second aim time, which is not too bad. It's still relatively slow, but even so. 0.33 second reload in between each shot, so in between one shot firing and the next shot reloading. So you're firing off all 3 shots in about a second, which is, yeah, very good. 170 average pen with AP, which is not that great. It's pretty low. 220 with APCR, 45 with HE. However, 210 average damage with this thing is very nice with AP, 180 APCR, 250 with HE. 8 degrees of gun depression, which is not the worst in comparison to something like the Gravedigger, for example. That's not that great, not that bad. However, 12 degrees of gun elevation is not good at all. So the gun itself, yeah, bit of a mixed bag. It's got some very good attributes, but also some very bad attributes. The dispersion and aim time, not too bad. Also, the 3 shells per magazine, which for a 14-second reload, doing a potential, 630 average damage, if all 3 shots hit and pen and do average damage, is, yeah, not too bad at all. And then if you bear in mind you have got provisions that you can go ahead and mount, which if I do that, it takes it all the way up to, yeah, that 2700 DPM, just over. 0.31 accuracy, 3.9 second aim time, 13.3 second magazine reload time. Yeah, this thing really does do a heck of a lot of damage in comparison. The Tiger does 2400 DPM, and that's got a very good 88mm gun, same as the Tiger P. The Gravedigger has got a potential magazine of 2222. Tankenstein, yeah, don't know why I'm looking at that, 1600. Even the VK as well, 2300. Very, very little comes close to this thing in terms of DPM. The damage output potential is very, very good. Predator Ultramarine, not even. Even something like the Jagdpanther, and that is 2800 DPM. The Jagdpanther only does 100 more DPM if you're using the 88. If you're using the 105, it gets worse DPM, and it's a tank destroyer. And tank destroyers are meant to have the best guns in their class. What about the E25? No, E25 still takes it at 3000 DPM. Yeah, okay. But even so, the gun on this thing is ridiculous. It is very fun. It is frustrating when only one shot hits and pens in order to do 200 average damage with a 14-second reload. That's not great. However, when all 3 shots hit and pen, and you've got only a 13-second reload time, yeah, doing 630 average damage for a 13.3 second reload. In comparison, this thing, the IS-2 Pravda, has also got a long reload, a 13.3 second reload, but only does 400 damage per shot with 1700 DPM. This thing really does outclass most heavies with its gun. Obviously, the downside is the dispersion after the shots are fired, which means accuracy at range is terrible. But then again, it is very much a frontline heavy. You've got the turret for brawling, you've got the upper hull for sort of brawling, and you've got the gun for brawling. You are a brawling heavy tank. And it is very good at that, as you will have seen from the amount of them that have appeared since the Halloween event went live. As for consumables, you've got the standard repair, first aid, fire. You've got multi-purpose. You've also got engine power boost for the 20% engine power. You've got no adrenaline though, because it is an autoloader, and autoloaders don't get adrenaline. Instead, it gets the improved engine power boost, which is the extra speed, extra turn rate, and 50% engine power. However, it does have a slightly longer cooldown, but even so, it's worth it for the amount of buffs it gives. Yeah, very useful. As for provisions, you've got your standard field rations and tinned food for 3 and 10% respectively to crew mastery, which is a good idea with a tank like this for the magazine reload. You've got standard and improved fuel for 3 and 10% respectively to engine power and turret reverse. Then you've got your protective kit, which is all of that lot. Also, bear in mind, it's got 2700 DPM if you go with both provisions. Take that off, still 2500 DPM. That's still more than all of the other heavies at this tier. So, even if you don't want to go with provisions, I normally tend to not go with provisions, but for this thing I decided to go all out to get that reload time and that gun to just be crazy. But if you're someone like me who doesn't normally use provisions and doesn't want to use provisions on this, you've still got a lot of DPM. This thing is pretty broken. Plus it carries 90 rounds of ammo, which, yeah, that's a lot of ammo. You can go ahead and mix and match those as you want. You can carry your AP, APCR, HE. You'll probably want to carry a decent amount of APCR. 170 average pen is not great, especially against tier 8 tanks. And even so, a maximum of 231 average pen with APCR still isn't that great. However, you've got the volume of shells coming out, you're bound to be able to take down some tier 8s, so it's not quite as bad as the Gravedigger, because it does at least do decent damage per shot. So even if only one shot pens, that's still 200-ish average damage. Well, 180 average damage, that's still decent damage, whereas the Gravedigger, if it pens, that's 70 damage, which is barely anything for a tier 8. So yeah, you can go ahead and mix and match those as you want. You're never going to really run out, I don't think, unless it's a super long battle. As for equipment, improve vents, get all of your buffs, especially to the gun and especially to the mobility as well. Decent mobility for a heavy on this thing. Improved modules for the extra track durability. The tracks are very large, as you can see. They're very large, very wide on the side of this tank, so it's a good idea to get the extra track durability, because they can eat some shots for you, especially if you're going for some sort of side scraping angles. Gonna want to go with improved modules for that. And you are a heavy tank. Coated optics. You're not a sniper, you don't have the gun for sniping, you're not going to go with a camo net. Gonna want coated optics. Same with enhanced gun lane drive. Get that reload aim time down, because everyone can do with a bit of extra enhanced gun lane drive, especially when you're sitting stationary. Enhanced armor, It increases your upper hull armor mostly, but then also your turret armor as well. Not a bad idea to go with enhanced armor. Definitely go with Engine Accelerator for the extra power to weight and average speed, plus you get your buffs to your hull traverse as well. Engine Accelerator. Refined Gun, get that dispersion down to 0.31, which is very accurate. Reduces that spread at range and allows you to really get those all 3 penetrating shots. And then Enhanced Tracks, might as well, is a frontline heavy. And then your choice of whatever the hell those 2 things are. So overall, yeah, very strong tank, very fun tank. It's very OP, I think is probably the main consensus from everyone. Will they change it? Most probably, but only after the event has gone, so that they can get the most people buying gold in order to just skip to the Annihilator, because there's a reason why you're seeing so many of these things. It is a very, very good tank, and you should get it when you can, but I wouldn't hold out hope on this thing not being changed in the future, because in its current state it is pretty much destroying tier 7 and 6 and 8 games. So pretty much just avoid those tiers if you're not going for this tank. But yeah, there you go, the Annihilator. Well, thank you for watching and goodbye.